Alright, so there's actually 2 bug reports around the sync bars we're working on, which I'm not surprised. I got a really big refactor, mostly the spawn message and how they were delivered. So I'm going to take a look at that real quick. I have a script here on how to replicate one, thanks to Max Pratt, our top helper. Let's see. I'm going to make a folder here, sync bar setting value test. Okay, let's make a new script. Sync bar resetting value test. Alright, so let's go ahead and copy the contents that they gave me. And honestly, these issues should be relatively minor. I didn't actually rewrite sync bars themselves entirely. I just rewrote how they were delivered in the spawn message and at runtime, because there was a lot of legacy code in there that needed to be changed. Alright. This never happens because setting it on start server gets reset instantly. Alright. Like they already have a callback. Alright, let's see what happens. I guess I just need a new scene. Add in the network manager. It doesn't say if this is on host or client only or what. Be easy enough to test both, I suppose. Basically what they're saying is, well, I mean, you can see the note here, is whenever you set it to false in OnStart server, it stays as true because that's what it is set inside the constructor. That's obviously not supposed to happen. Oops, okay, I need to remove the observer manager requirement. Right, so that did not pick up as a scene object. That's fine. Just gonna rebuild scene objects real quick. There we go. All right, so on change, set to false, but this is not firing, which means it's true. Like, I mean, it's got to be true, but I'm still going to validate just to make sure this is actually running, because that'd be funny if this whole update loop wasn't running to begin with. Okay, so it obviously is according to that debug. Alright, so this should be a pretty easy fix. Let's find out what's resetting it. Let's also see if this is happening on client only. Presumably it will be if it's happening on host. It's probably going to be happening on client only as well. Well, I'm glad that was one of the goals in making it. And we're going to continue to try to make things more simple. Truth is, any networking solution can do what you want. I mean, yeah, you might have to take some of them apart more, but what they offer out of the box and how efficiently it's done is what really matters the most. Okay, so I got this. I'm just going to do server only. Start it up. And I'm going to go over to the scene here. Yeah, so this is also true on this one, or else we would be seeing the debug saying that it's false. It seems to be happening as client host and client only, which I kind of figured as much. Let's see what could be going on though. That should be pretty easy to figure out. It's going to be under set value. It's probably, well, it's setting the value if it's making a callback. If this is happening, it's setting the value. So more likely what's going on is it's being reset. Let's go over to this. And see why that is happening. Okay. Man, these damn emojis are in the way of your message. I'm just gonna send a ... Ignore that. Unity 6. There's like a little, by the way, there's an emoji fold out on my screen that's like blocking the end of messages, and I don't know how to get rid of it. It's so annoying. Unity 6 is already supported. Like we don't officially support it, but it works. There's no known issues with Unity 6 at the moment. We don't typically officially support anything until it goes into LTS. Maybe I can find like disable that or something. Okay, so it's getting both resets and it's calling reset at what point? Let's see. Write dirty sync type. Interesting. Oh, I see what's going on. Nope. Like I said, I mean, we don't quote unquote officially support it because it's not an LTS yet, but there's a ton of people using Unity 6 with Fishnet, and we haven't had a single issue reported related to Unity 6. So as far as I know, everything works, including the multiplayer window thing that they have. So basically what's going on here though is I think it's basically saying, hey, nothing is everything that needs to receive this has been written to, so we're going to go ahead and okay. So this is saying if the object is not spawned, then reset to the starting values, which is that's supposed to happen. It's also saying if there's no observers, reset to the starting value, which is probably not supposed to happen. Because why would you want to reset if there's no observers? Because the object could still exist on the server as spawned. All right, let me see. That just doesn't make sense. Not gonna lie, I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote that. Doesn't make sense. Probably one of the evening coding sessions. That's fixed. I'm going to keep this in here though, just in case. It should not happen. In most conditions, types will be pushed through when the despawn. No observers can occur when the server changes a sync type value, but gain no observers in the same. I should say, but had no observers in the same tick. You still want to mark a sync type as dirty in this situation because it needs to write a despawn message. Yes, that's right. So I think that removing that line should be fine. That one little section. Okay. There we go. That solves that one bug. Yeah, that should be good. Make sure everything refreshes and then push it up. Yeah, I gotta remove the debug here, don't I? A really bad habit of leaving that in sometimes. Do not change this file. Okay. What is the difference? It's saying there's change, but I don't see change. That's okay. Might just be like a formatting thing, perhaps. Let me see if there's a bug report for this as well, just so I can clear that out if there is. There's not. Okay. Fix to sync types setting correctly. Okay, let's go ahead and commit and push that. Make sure I'm not on the right branch. Telling me. I'm gonna discard my changes just because it's one. So. By the way, if you happen to do what I did, you write code on the wrong branch. In case you didn't notice, what's really cool is it depends on what you're using for your I guess GUI here for your Git client or whatever. You can take the changes you made and then right click them, or again, it depends on your client, and do save as patch, and then you basically save it as a file, and then you can load that patch into a different branch. I didn't do that because it's literally just one line I had to modify. But it is useful. It's saved me a couple times because I'll accidentally be developing on the main branch instead. All right, so that bug is resolved. Let me tell my helper. Oh, typing right now. I wonder if they're in the stream. I'm just getting back to my helper so they're up to date on this stuff. All right, cool. Thank you, Max. I don't know if they're in the stream. They're probably not. But thanks to them either way for making that simple to replicate and whatnot. They're a big help to getting things resolved, taking ideas and stuff like that. They're a huge, huge help to the community. All right, so that's done. I'm just going to delete this because that was a pretty one and done situation. All right, so now I need to update something else. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, now I just need to update something else. This is a request per enterprise supporter. Find the actual script. And these both use so they're saying there's a little bit of choppiness in the smoother, and I have a test scene for that actually somewhere in here. Somewhere in here. I don't need that anymore. I need to clean up my project. It's got a lot of old. This is why I ask people to put things in one folder, because of this. And granted, these were in one folder. I probably created these and didn't move them over. Why is there two? Do I dare move this to the... okay, I'm gonna move this over here and see what happens. Only move the contents of it. Okay. I think this is... got an alarm going off. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, I believe this was happening on host as well. Yeah, so you can actually see if you're not looking at the gizmo here. So let me focus on the camera view. You can see it's a little choppy. Maybe you can in the stream, I don't know, but it's definitely a little choppy in the camera view. This is going to jitter, that's normal. The gizmo is going to jitter. It's basically using the fixed time step. Should be more noticeable with lower, maybe higher. Let's see. Let me bump that up. Yeah, I mean, I can see it just barely, but it's there. The lower your frame rate is, the more noticeable it's going to be. If I increase that to 60. Well, I could see it all the same depending on no matter what frame rate. Oh, does it now? Okay, I will talk louder throughout this stream, or I'll move the mic closer, I guess, and I will adjust it for future streams. I don't want to turn it up randomly in the middle of the stream though. So this is using the network tick smoother, which in turn is using the local transform tick smoother. And this is what needs a rework. So how it works right now is pretty simple. It automatically smooths over one tick. What the problem is the frame rate variance, and there's always frame rate variance no matter what. You know how good your computer is, always frame rate variance to some degree. It's causing the object to either arrive at its destination one frame before the next tick, which causes it to sit for a very brief moment before moving again, or it's causing it to not arrive by the next tick, which means even if the object's moving at like a constant rate, since it's not at the point when it gets to the next tick, it's going to be that small amount of extra distance added So if the move rate was like 3F, it might be like 3.01F. And although that is extremely minor, in certain situations that could be noticed. So instead of doing it like it is now, where basically we just say, hey, this is so-and-so distance from the goal. Every tick is every 20 milliseconds or whatever. So how long does it take to move that distance over 20 milliseconds? And that's our move rate. Instead of doing that, we're just going to use a buffer, kind of like the network transform does and whatnot. So does the smoother for predicted objects, but that one's way more complex. This one is going to be a lot more simple. All right, so we're going to do private queue and transform properties, I suppose. Say I'll say buffer. I can rename it later. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So there's a queue, which everyone probably knows about queue. Comes with .NET. I'm pretty sure that mine is quite potentially a little bit faster. I don't know if it has all of the same features though. But let's see. If we go to void enqueue, I mean, that's pretty standard. I'm gonna have to do something about that alarm here in a second. And we have mine, which is basic queue. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, this is just a resize method of my inside, and then they bump up the right. So mine, the enqueue is kind of the same. Let's look at the dequeue. What? Should be like a try dequeue. Okay. Same thing there. Theirs is a little bit different, just slightly. I can't. Oh, they set it to default. Do I set it to default when you dequeue? I do not. So that could be something I might need to add into mine, to basically add an option to set it to default. There's like a clear option where it defaults everything. I didn't think of that. It's actually sitting in memory until you default it, which it gets overwritten anyway eventually. Default. Let me just put something in there. True to set the array entry as default. Yeah, that's what I think. Okay. I guess I could just do default to cast as redundant. Mine does have something theirs doesn't have though. Speed wise, I'd say it looks to be about the same. But what mine has that theirs does not is this. This is a different type of resize. Okay, so my resize is slightly more efficient than theirs. It prevents a little bit of a copy. I think theirs allocates more, but mine has this where you could basically peek the offset inside the queue, which is really useful. That's but you're probably like, why did I rewrite the queue in the first place? Not because I wanted to, but because Unity Cogen IL, oh sorry, not IL TCP, but their Cecil stuff. You can't import type of queue. If you try to use queue, it breaks. Like it breaks. And it started in 2021, I think, maybe 2022. And when I say it breaks, I mean it throws errors and nothing will work. So if you used a queue in a RPC, for example, and you had to import its type, or if you had to like use it in your generated code, it won't work. And I filed a bug report to Unity, and they were just basically like, well, you know, that Cogen stuff's supposed to be low level and not really for the public, so we're not going to fix it. Even though they use it in their networking solution. So I had to write a whole new class to use instead of the queue because of that. I don't know why it wouldn't import queue properly. It's just something they did, but Unity annoys me sometimes. I don't know if I have a collection cache for this. Oh, I do. All right, I got my alarms going off again real quick. So all I need to do is just take care of that. I only need like 2 minutes. I will be right back. Okay. I just had to give my bearded dragon some of her food, and if I pause the alarm one more time, it's going to stop going off, and I'll forget entirely. So don't want to do that. All right. So now instead of moving to the position over time, we're just going to move to the queue. Another option was to just wait 1 frame before moving. That might work too. Before I go too far in with this queue change, because this is kind of like adding in a whole new feature, this is adding in an interpolation more than 1, and right now it only supports an interpolation of 1, because that's really all it's supposed to do, is just smooth values, like smooth stuff over the tick. What I'm going to do instead is do this. I like the idea of the queue, and I'll probably implement that later, but I don't want to add in all that complexity if I don't have to right now, because there's other things to do. So let's see. Let's add a constant here. Oops, I made a typo. Okay. All right. Comment this out real quick. Now, it's basically what this does here is if the interpolation is 1, it's going to add on a small little amount of time. This is what I talked about where this basically ensures that it doesn't get to the position before the next tick because that will cause it to stop moving. Usually 1 frame before the next tick, and you'll see that. But with this change, we don't need that. Instead, we're going to do if frame doesn't, or yeah, let's say frame equals unset frame, start frame equals time dot frame count plus 1. So let's do 2 frames. Why not? 2 frames. I'll explain why 2 frames later if this works as expected. Server relay broken? No, not that I know of. I'm gonna optimize this in a second. All right, let's see if that fixes it real quick. That actually made it way worse. I made it so much worse. I can see it now. I think I know why it made it worse though. Well, no, it should always be behind the position slightly. So I think what's happening is it's hitting the position. Shouldn't be though, but it is. I wonder if yeah, that's not going to work. I know why it's doing it. It's because it's basically moving to it. It's getting the move rates based on if, say, it was over 20 milliseconds. But no, it's setting that beforehand. Yeah, I guess it's probably working correctly the first time, but the gap is going to be further the next time, which makes sense because it's a little behind, and the move rates are going to be faster, and that's wrong. So that's probably what's going on. We're going to have to go with the buffer approach to make it work 100% properly. That's fine. Just a little more work. I was hoping I could get around having to do it, but so previous values. This is going to have to be a little different. So we're going to do transform properties previous values equals, and we're going to do if buffer dot count greater than 0, it's going to equal the last entry in the buffer. Otherwise, it's going to be it doesn't seem right. Oh, it is getting the local move rates. Okay, that's fine then. Otherwise, it's going to. So basically, we're saying, yeah, I'm not sure 100% about that. Why it's not connecting. I don't use Steam a whole lot. I know it works, but I don't use Steam a whole lot. Maybe something's getting stripped out. I'll make sure it's working in other situations where you're using the ID and whatnot. If it is, it could be how you're deploying your server. It could be a bunch of other things. You'd have to basically make the problem replicate as simply as possible. And that might give you a hint as to what's going on. Okay, so here, now we're going to, if there's no Q count, we're going to get the move rates from the first position. Otherwise, we're going to get the move rates from the last entry in the buffer, because that's ultimately what we're doing now. Of course, if we only... Let me check. We don't want to move until... Well, the buffer is always going to have values. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. I'm thinking out loud here. I'm gonna hop over to my network transform here and just borrow some code from it. All right, I don't think I DQ'd it yet. I need to DQ. This should be moving to the buffer 0. I'll optimize all this later. Like, I know this is not the greatest optimization, especially in the hot path, since this is running an update. Sorry, I was reading chat there. Give me 1 second. All right, so basically what we're doing here is, let's say if you're moving from goal A to B, right? And the delta of the frame has wind. Let's say if it was your average frame delta is 20 milliseconds, right? And let's say it could have completed the move in 10 milliseconds, like the amount of distance traveled in 10 milliseconds, then there's going to be 10 milliseconds left over, and we want to move into the next buffer with that extra time. That way it keeps a nice constant move rate. Otherwise it would look, I'm not sure if I can really demonstrate it visually. You're just going to have to trust me on this one. Basically, if you stop and you don't proceed to move to the next entry in the buffer with the extra time on the frame, you're going to get varying move rates, and you don't want that. So let's see. Got an error up here. Move to target. Time.delta time. I need to set this again. Am I adding to the buffer though? I might have to change how they're added to the buffer as well. Something is not making sense here. I basically need to add the value as it would be after the object move. But if I just add the position of the graphical object, which is already behind because of the buffer, that's not going to be right at all. So I think what I need to do is I'm wondering if I'll have to use world values with the buffer. I feel like I do. Let me check something real quick. This is the really complex one that is used with prediction. Yeah, so I'm getting the world properties. This is if it's the first entry, then it's getting the world properties of it. And if it okay, my bad. This is actually setting the move rates if this is the first time it's moving. This is setting it based on the network. Okay, so that's what I thought. I'm going to copy this here. So I believe you reached out to me about a consultation, right? You did. I think Discord is hiding your full name, or I'm sorry. Yeah, Discord's hiding your full name because it has the streamer stuff enabled because I'm streaming. Let me just check real quick. Okay, I have to turn off streamer mode. Yeah, you did. Okay. It was only showing S dot dot dot, and I just wanted to make sure I was talking to the same person. I won't be able to consult you on this because this isn't really fishnet related. This is something going on with the Steam service, whatever it might be. So I can't really advise on that. It's not something I specialize in particularly. There are people in the server though that do use Steam and have used it a lot, and you might be able to put out something in like the looking for talent, and they'll be able to help you out, and you'll probably find help at a cheaper rate than me for this particular thing. So that's probably what I would try first, is finding someone that's more familiar with Steam itself, because I don't think this is fishnet related. I mean, unless something in fishnet is being stripped and it's calling that, like it's making it close or whatever. I don't know, but I don't think so. It's most likely Steam related. I'm just gonna drop this here and make a mess of everything. So it's not actually the network object we need, it's the root object. Which, do I have that cached anywhere? No, I do not. I guess it could just be that. Alright, what are the graphics initialized offset values? Are those world offsets? Okay, well that's why I don't have that. I mean, it probably was right at one point, but you know what? I think I can just make it use this. Well, this depends on a network object. When this doesn't need a network object, this just depends on a transform. But I think I can use the same class and make my life a heck of a lot easier. When it connects, it says the transport IP is null. What says that? Do you have like a stack trace? If you do, send it to me on Discord. If it's a fishnet issue, I'll fix it, period. No charge, obviously. I think I can use the child transform tick smoother and if I just modify this ever so slightly. Let's see. I take this and I were to do this and change this to actually I don't think I need I think it's gonna be a lot easier if I just use this class and rework it to include it doing it in a different way. Oh. I wish maybe somebody knows this. What I'm trying to do here, this is Rider, and I'm somewhat new to Rider. I usually use Visual Studio. So far, it's been really nice to me after I've gotten the hang of it, I should say. But there's still something else that's annoying. So let's say I have this owner smooth properties value, right? I want to change this to smooth properties, and then I want to apply the oh, now it's working. Never mind. I don't know what was going on before, but never mind. Okay. Annoying. Okay. I think I know what happened. Visual Studio does this too. If you edit something, like if you edit the line and you bring up a prompt or whatever, and then you undo it and you try to bring up a prompt again, it still sometimes brings up the wrong prompts, like the old prompts, and to fix it, you have to go to a different value or different line and just add like a space and then undo it and then go back to the one you want to modify and it'll work. I don't know why but yeah. Let's see. So I'm fixing the spacing on those lines there. There's got to be something in here. Where are you? Actually, I'm just going to do something else. I'm going to do well, you know, if the server is disconnecting, you should see a log on the server. If you're doing a server build, what I'd recommend is one, either do the server, if you haven't tried already, do the server build as development. And if it doesn't happen in development, then something in release is kicking the client. Maybe it's trying like a security thing or something. If that's the case, like if it works in development but not release, what you'll want to do is anywhere in your project, just go to create fishnet logging and do go logging level configuration, name it whatever you want. And for headless logging, change this to comment. Right now, by default, it's set to error, so it will only log errors for headless. And then in your network manager, drop that inside the logging configuration. And then you should be able to see logs for everything. Because if it kicks the client, it might not be logging it as an error, because it may not. Errors are all used for absolutely like fatal things, of course. So try that too. Try building as development. If it works in development, try making a new logging and building as release. All right. So comment that out. All right. Obviously, we can't smooth if the graphics object is null. And yes, we're working in a different class now. I switched over to the more complex one. So we're going to do, this is for if initialized for network object. This is the check to exit smoothing if initialized for the networked object. Else, basically, if initialized for basic smoothing. And it looks like in this one there is none for that. So that's fine. I think that's it. These extra checks are only needed if smoothing was set up in relation to the, we'll just say prediction. Really, right now, this is being initialized for prediction, not per se network object. Like, this is the one used for prediction. All right. So we don't need that. We do need to adjust. I'm gonna change a couple things here. All right, so we're going to do graphical object.parent. Should probably add a check here. Oh, I don't need to reset state twice. That'd be bad. I'm basically trying to prevent double the work here. I'm going to go ahead and add above this. I'm going to add a transform. Parent use. All right, let's see. parent, this is 4. This value is null when not smoothing for a predicted object. You know what? I guess it wouldn't be null. When smoothing for prediction, this is the transform of the network object. I'll just say of network object. Kind of like a cache value, I suppose. All right, so I think that should be okay. Another thing is that adaptive interpolation should be off. Let me make sure that adaptive interpolation is set off by default. There we go. This caching stuff seems like a bit of work. I mean, it's not really. You just have to remember, like, whenever you pull something from the cache, you also have to apply it, like reset it in the reset state. But this has been a huge benefit in terms of performance, because we're working on, I mean, we're pretty much everything in the hot path. Everything in the hot path uses caching right now. It has for the longest time. But I'm also trying to get it for like initialization and stuff, because like, let's say if you're writing like a bullet hell game and you're spawning, God forbid, 50 bullets a second or whatever, you don't want these allocating, collections and whatnot 50 times a second per player or whatever. So yeah, that's why we're doing it in everything now. Should have done it from the beginning and everything, but Fishnet has grown significantly since the beginning. We do make improvements along the way. We don't usually note them. We just kind of do it, and then magically you save more bandwidth or CPU. All right, so let's go to get rid of that. We're gonna get some errors here now. All right, this is fine. We're gonna do private child transform tick smoother. Call it tick smoother like before. This is something else you guys can use too. This is part of the GameKit plugin that's inside Fishnet, and it's mine too. So there's like no restrictions on it really. A lot of utilities in there for optimization, so check it out. Store and default, basically, when you do this, it'll take this class, in this case right here, it'll take this class of reference tick smoother, it will throw it back in the cache, and then it will nullify the reference inside this class. That's if you're using store and default. If you just use store, it just throws it back in the cache. But there's a lot of little things you can use. You can also simplify this a bit too by just doing things like going to this and doing like making a static version, like an extension to retrieve it, or just yeah. So that way you don't have to type all of that out. You could just do something like ticksmoother.store, and then you could just do ticksmoother equals child.retrieve or whatever. So it's a little less typing, but yeah, I might add those in to certain classes that are used a lot. But those would be an extra method call too, because it has to go through the extension and then to the actual code. So keep that in mind. All right, so we're gonna have the initialize here. My cat is intentionally being annoying. He wants something. Detach is false. The teleport distance is t distance. Tick delta is float time manager.tick delta. What's next? Interpolation is well, there's no interpolation field on this, is there? Well, why don't I add one? This is for the mono. I'll have to. I have to finalize all that later. I'll have to make sure to finalize all of this later. What's next? Smooth properties, everything for now. Reset state, default to true. Let's go to the other one here. Going to end up doing basically the same exact thing. So this might be different. I remember this being a fix for the onDestroyed. I'll need to look into that because like this one here has different code for disable, and this one has it for destroy. And I remember this being like a patch because someone managed to do this. That's how a lot of bugs are. Like someone uses the software in a way that makes no sense, but it's like, well, you know, I can see why you're doing it that way. You're like 1 in 5,000 people, you know, that use this, but okay, it makes sense, I guess. So all right, so initialize. I'm going to have to align these, make them the same. Oh, I didn't add interpolation to this, did I? I try to keep an open mind with things like that, where people use my software in some very unusual ways. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the wrong way to use it. It's just something like, oh, you know, no one has really thought of that before, or yeah, you know, it's either no one has really thought of that before, or oh, what the heck? Oh, okay. Initialize, deinitialize, pre-tick. reconcile post tick. Okay, so it requires a client tick, but the client tick doesn't matter in this sense, I believe. Let me just double check. Oh, I guess it does if I want to use teleport, don't I? Ah, I do need to use it. Okay. So this is needed, actually. Online racing game. In any room, player drives on highway. What is the best way to create NPC? Well, if the traffic is going to be exactly the same, that's hard to say. You could use a seed to spawn it all in, but if players can mess up traffic, like push traffic out of the way and stuff, you're going to have to network the objects. If they cannot, like if they just smash into a car and they go flying, the car still keeps moving unchanged, you can just like use it as is, like use the same seed, just have everyone run the same code offline. This is gonna be bad. Oh, there it is. Okay. I knew something was gonna happen. Okay, so this needs to be parent. Oh. Well, look at that. That's super smooth. Like you can't even see that moving. Like it is moving so fluidly. There's no jitter on that whatsoever. Okay, what did I do to break it? No, I think I need to. I'm going to guess that it's not smoothing. Let me just. That's going to create a lot of spam. Let's go here. No, this is just. Are you talking about? Are you talking to me, Bybot, or are you talking to Rapak? All right, we're gonna go here and go here. See what could be going on. What? Non-invocable means it's. Ow. I meant to use the method call, not the field. There we go. No, this is just to like there's mono smoothers and tick smoothers, and I'm just trying to basically consolidate them. Okay, A, B, C, D. This should not be true. It should equal off. Why is it not off? Maybe it's not set to off. Well, no, it's resetting the state. So it should be setting it to off. Oh, it's because it's not initialized. And it doesn't start as off, that's why. Let me just comment that out. Stack Overflow. Okay. Get move rates. That's returning false, which means it's going to clear instead, and it's going to add. I just get rid of all this. I wonder if there's no way this did it. I'm in disbelief of this being the culprit. Yeah, okay, I didn't think so. So, so basically it's saying that there's no time remaining. So it's telling it to move to the position again using the time remaining. And this is if there are properties left to move towards. Well, it's not removing the properties, is it? I don't see it in there anyway. That seems like a mistake. Yeah, that seems like that's not supposed to be like that. All right, well, we fixed the Stack Overflow, but now it's just like, it's still not going to move. So let's continue onward and see what is going on. This is going to spam console a lot. I can't imagine. It's like. It looks like. It's hitting the. Okay, 15 tick rate. It looks like it is moving once. Oh, it's raining. It makes me wonder if It's like the time remaining might not be getting set properly. And it could just be only moving at once. Start remaining 0. Yeah, it's not getting set. Ooh, it is raining hard. I like it. Don't know why it's not. Whenever we add the transform data, it should be setting it. Actually, it should be here, I believe. Let me see where this is actually set. Okay, that's where it makes a new move rate. That's where it subtracts it, which is fine. So let's see what this is called. No usages. That seems wrong. Okay. This actually needs to be up here. Result dot time remaining equals duration. You're killing me. Well, this is another thing too. Oh, this isn't returning the whole structure though. There are no usages. Is this the only usage? Okay. Noted. Oh, this looks like it's using the same code as what I was doing before, so I don't think that's gonna work anyway. It does use the queue though. Like this should be setting a duration. I don't know why it's at 0. So let's just take a look and see what could be going on there. Because that duration is 0. Did I forget to set the tick delta? And whenever I might have not set the tick delta. No, it's set right here. What on earth did I do? Yeah, so it's setting the tick delta, but it's saying duration is 0, which goes off from... the interpolation might not be right either. I know the tick delta's right. I'm gonna log it anyway. Interpolation. It's probably the interpolation is 0. Okay, this shouldn't be used because basic move rates is only used when you're not using adaptive interpolation. Yeah. So that shouldn't exist. All right, duration is 0, tick delta, interpolation is 0. Let me look at this real quick. Interpolation is set to 1. And this is getting the value from oh. Okay, I see. I see what's going on. I'm gonna have to clean this code up so badly after all of this. It's a friggin' mess. Okay. Where'd my debug go? All right, this should be true for prediction, and I gotta go back to here and change this to where's that initialize at? I flipped it. Okay, false for prediction. Give me 1 sec. I'm just reading a DM. Okay, so you're timing out your client is timing out, right? That's yeah. So that just means that it can't connect. Is the server's just not logging in at all, like it's not hitting the connection whatsoever? Oh, looks like this is working-ish. It's just not moving. But it's actually working, kind of. It's... So is it never hitting that, or there's never any extra in the queue. What? So how is time remaining never? Probably gonna take a break here soon. I think I know what's. I feel like this is probably overriding the move rates. That's exactly what's going on. Okay, so what I need to do from here, I'm gonna take a break though, is what's happening. I believe I'm gonna just double check. Is I think it is. How do I navigate to this code on that side? Yeah. So this is on pre-tick, and what's happening if you're not using the adaptive interpolation, it's just clearing the transform queue, which is unsetting the move rates, which means all that calculation we did and putting the time into the move rates and removing the time remaining so we know to go to the next entry in the queue is just basically being wiped out. Oh, did you guys hear that? That was a big thunder. I don't know if you guys heard that. Like that was within half a second of the lightning strike. So don't be surprised if I just get cut off suddenly. I mean, I have a power backup, but it's not going to do anything if the internet goes out. It'll just keep my computer from crashing and whatnot. Ooh, it is picking up. I love storms like this. One of the big things I really like about living in Florida. All right, but yeah, basically what's going on is it's clearing the queue and it's undoing all our hard work. So the main difference between the adaptive interpolation and the basic interpolation is the basic interpolation just moves. If you were here earlier in the stream, it moves over. I'll just type it out. It's easier to explain this way. So let's say if you go from here, or let's say if you go from A to B, and this is over 1 tick, then the tick rate is, let's say, 20 milliseconds, and this distance is 0.5 units. It's going to do 0.5 divided by your 20 milliseconds, and that's going to be the move rate, and that's assuming you're doing one tick. Or one interpolation. Now, if it's 2 interpolation, taking these same numbers, it's just going to basically double this, so it equals 40 milliseconds, and then it's just going to do it over that, and it's going to move slightly slower. That's how the basic one is. It just kind of adds a little bit more of a buffer to it. And what will happen is, yes, it'll start to move slower from A to B, but once the next, how many of you guys can hear that? That's crazy. So the next time it's going to be closer to like A to B might be like this, but then your next one's going to be C, which we'll just say these total combined 2 or 1 units. Let's say it's moving at a constant rate. What's going to happen though is with the slower move rate, it's only going to be like right about here. So instead of calculating the distance between B and C, it's going to actually calculate it from X all the way to C, and it's just going to speed up and kind of average out. And that's how that works. But it's not the greatest system, and it has worked like for 99% of people. And some reason there's just one situation where it's not working, and that is the one I'm working on resolving. The adaptive interpolation works a little bit differently. Ignoring the adaptive part first, so let's say if this is your movement, all the same numbers and everything, we'll pretend. We'll say an interpolation of 1. What's going to happen is it's going to put that into a queue, basically. We'll say an interpolation of 2 because it doesn't really work so much with an interpolation of 1. So it puts that into a queue, and it gets the speed using your tick delta, regardless of your interpolation. So if this is 0.5 units, your tick delta is, let's say, 20 ms tick delta. It's going to put that, and it's going to say, okay, so the distance between A to B is 0.5 units divided by 0.2, and what is that, 2.5 units per second, if my math is right, which it is definitely not. It is 25 units per second. So it's going to put that into a queue, but it's not going to start moving until another tick passes. So that entry right there is going to be in the queue. And then when we do get the second entry of B to C, it's going to see, okay, well, the distance between B to C is also 0.5. And that's going to be the move rate for this. And then once it has that extra entry, it'll start moving. So you have that buffer. It's way better of a system. It's just more complex. Now, the quote-unquote adaptive part is something entirely different. This, what I described here, is just a buffer moving versus a half-assed lazy moving. The adaptive is based on your ping rate. And or I guess your I guess it's just called ping or round trip time. More so, use roughly your half round trip time. But basically, what it does is the buffer count in the above example here is 2. So this is the buffer count, and let's say you need 5 ticks to cover your latency. Then the buffer automatically becomes 5, and it won't start until you're at that mark. Or it might start, it'll actually start, sorry, I misspoke, it will start, but it'll move slower. So over a tick, instead of moving the full duration of A to B, it might only move like this far over 1 tick. And it will speed up to close that gap to allow, but also allow the buffer to fill up. Basically, it gives the impression of instant movement, but it closes that gap while filling up the buffer at the same time, and it's very fluid and it works really well. So that's the adaptive part of that, and there's more to it. Like, this is the part I'm going to have to skip. For example, when you reconcile. I know you guys heard that. Okay. Well, when you reconcile, if there's any corrections, and this is where the adaptive part comes in, where it really shines. If there's any corrections in prediction and your outcome is different, it's going to peek into that buffer and say, okay, this is the result we had previously, but this is the new result. And when it needs to, it's going to recalculate the actual changes off from that. And that's what makes it so if your object is, once it's finished saving here, go to 2D. if your object goes from like, let's say if it's moving like smoothly here, this is like what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to move smoothly, but let's say if it moves and then it resets back and it moves more. So if it's moving, resets back, then moves, that buffer is gonna basically cover that reset. Because let's say if move this here. Let's say if this is the object's actual position and this is the visual. So if this is moving here, the visual's here, and the actual position snaps back, and this is still moving a little bit, and then corrects to here, then the buffer is just going to keep moving. Well, actually, I guess it wouldn't correct that far out. It'd probably correct it here. But the buffer is just going to keep moving, and it's going to basically be nice and smooth. You're not going to see that desync. So anyway, I'm going to work on this more offline. I know what I need to do now. Realistically, all I should have to do is run the adaptive interpolation, but with a set buffer. Basically, don't let it calculate the buffer based off the ping, and disable where it overwrites the values to what they were previously, because that's not needed when you're just smoothing local stuff. And I think I'll be able to reuse, pretty much the same code without having to do too much work. I think it'll be a good outcome. Anyway, how long have I been streaming? Hour 43, and the storm is picking up more. So we don't really lose power here that often, but the last time I said we don't lose power here, we literally lost power like 5 minutes later. so you never know. But I'm gonna go ahead and take off. Thanks everybody for checking us out, and I'll be on later, probably in like an hour or so. In the meantime, happy coding. Enjoy your day.